Hi everyone, John Gardizzi again with Advanced Learning Academy. And today we're going to talk a bit about community service and extracurricular activities. Specifically, how can students stand out in the college admissions process? As you may recall from some of our earlier webinars, I'm a Harvard graduate, class of 2009. I'm a former admissions interviewer for Harvard College, and I have over 10 years experience in college admissions counseling. So the key question we're going to explore today is how can you create an extracurricular profile that helps boost your college admissions chances? And frequently I chat with parents, I chat with students, and I often get the question of, what does it take to get into a top school? And so today we're going to look at a few different students that I personally worked with, and their profiles really were just spectacular. And I consider them sort of best in class examples of what students can do to really set themselves apart in the admissions process. So, in terms of what a top applicant has in his or her profile, you'll see strong academics, you'll see intellectual vitality, you'll see a diverse range of interests as well as leadership skills. So these things all matter, as well as service to others and a strong narrative. And the narrative comes through in the essay, in the recommendations, in the forms you fill out, in the interviews you do. But if you notice, I've underlined service to others because I consider community service to be the most underrated aspect of the college application. And so today I'd like to talk a bit about community service in a more practical and sort of real way. And so we're going to talk about three students who really follow different pathways in their high school careers. So our first student is going to be Annie, and she was the traditional overachiever. She did everything, but then she did a couple things really well that helped set her apart. We'll talk about Kevin, the problem-solving programmer. He was really interested in coding and engineering, and he did very well in the admissions process. And then finally, we'll talk about Alice, the committed activist and scientist. So let's talk about Annie. Annie was a traditional overachiever. She got into MIT early, and then she was accepted into Stanford, Harvard, Yale, Princeton. She really did all of the different types of activities you can think about as a high school student. She did them well. And there were two things that I think really helped her stand out. One was the music for the community program, which we'll talk about in a bit, and then doing summer research at Stanford after 10th and 11th grade. She eventually went on to attend Stanford, both for undergrad and for medical school, and is now well on her way to becoming a phenomenal doctor. So, before we dive into Annie, I want to take a moment to talk about this framework, which I call the good, better, even better, best framework, because oftentimes students come to me at different stages in their high school careers. They're, developing, they're evolving, they're growing, and they're wondering if what they're doing is the best they could possibly be doing. And so with this good, better, even better, best framework, I basically take any sort of activity you do and start with, what's the bare minimum, what demonstrates consistent effort, what demonstrates leadership, and what is truly among the top 1% of what students are doing. So let's take an example, the example of coding. So if you take AP Comp Sci A at your school, and I'm not even talking AP Comp Sci principles, I'm talking about AP Comp Sci A, which is a legitimate coding class. What you've done is good. It is the bare minimum for anyone interested in CS or engineering. But what is better? What looks better? You attend a coding camp, you offer services in your local community. What's even better is if you conduct research or participate in a competition like ISEF. And what's really best is publishing papers and then, winning regional or national competitions. Now, from a community service perspective, what's good is starting an organization. What's better is developing a strong membership base and organizing events. And then what's even better is starting a unique community program that garners local attention. And then finally, the best students are scaling activities to other areas and training others to do the same. And, a similar approach could be said regarding sports or the arts. But really what your goal should be is to go from good to best over the course of your high school career. So let's talk about Annie. In the 9th grade, she realizes that there's a school in her local community that lacks funds for a music program. And so she kicks off Music for the Community as a club at her school. And so she's going around and she's teaching music courses to students in her local area. 10th grade rolls around and she's able to build up a membership base. And there are kids who are really, really excited about music and they're really looking to join her effort. So the membership base grows. And then in 11th grade, she discovers a school in her local area. So she lives in Palo Alto, California, and there is a school in her local area, the East Palo Alto Charter School, that lacks funds for a music program. And so she creates a Music for the Community program specific to that school, where over 200 students are involved. She's teaching 5 classes every month. They're training 10 teachers. They work with a bunch of different local media outlets, and they get a bunch of support from local businesses to raise the funds that they need. So this ends up being a spectacular accomplishment. She ends up writing one of her college admissions essays about this experience, and that really sets her apart from an admissions perspective. So now I want to talk about Kevin. So Kevin was a problem-solving programmer. He actually still is a problem-solving programmer. He's going into his 2nd year at MIT. And in terms of his acceptances, he got into MIT early, Stanford and Harvard. And actually Stanford sent him his acceptance 2 months early, even though he applied regular decision. And like I said, he's currently at MIT. And, Kevin is your classic, tech guy. He did a bunch of things that really showcased his leadership, but the 3 things that he did well were, he developed a deep learning system to predict dangerous driver behavior. He did some original research on radio wave imaging, which he presented to NASA and 7-Eleven headquarters in Dallas, which is close to where he lives. And he also founded several student organizations on campus, including an AI organization, a public speaking organization, and then a CS organization. So 7th grade. So let's start a little earlier with Kevin. He codes his first app on MIT App Inventor. In the 8th grade, he designs an app that helps predict the schedules of buses in his local school district. He realizes that buses aren't showing up on time, kids are late for being picked up or dropped off, and so he creates this app, and it's a phenomenal success. In the 9th grade, he helps a family friend design a business analytics solution to help track costs and revenues, as well as mine data for marketing purposes. So he's really starting to build up his coding skills in a pretty spectacular way. In the 10th grade, one of his friends is actually caught in a hit and run accident. And so he creates the machine learning platform to predict dangerous driver behavior. It's a phenomenal success. He presents it at multiple science fairs and conferences. That summer after 10th grade, he actually does research in machine learning to weed out fake news from printed media. And so he develops this AI algorithm that can parse through large amounts of text and detect fake news. And so this becomes a really amazing success for him. And then in the 11th grade, he actually has to deal with something that's quite challenging on the personal front. His grandma has a slip and fall in the dead zone of a security camera. And so he creates a radio wave imaging system that basically helps people see that helps third parties see through walls using radio waves that are emitted from a device. And so because of this, he's able to present his findings to the National Security Agency as well as 7-Eleven headquarters. So for military applications as well as retail applications, his research is groundbreaking. And he actually drew on research that was conducted by an MIT professor in this field. So when time came for him to apply to MIT and he had to explain what it was that he actually wanted to study at MIT, he was able to draw on this research. So that's Kevin. Now let's talk a bit about Alice. So Alice was the activist and scientist. And so she was accepted to Harvard, Penn, and Brown, and she ended up going to Harvard. And so similar to the other students we looked at, she had a couple things that really set her apart. So she conducted research at Hopkins, the National Institutes of Health, as well as UC Davis. So she was really involved in science research. She was also an advocate for anti-obesity efforts in her area, specifically among children. So she co-founded an organization called CHOICE, the Coalition for Halting Obesity in Children Everywhere. And then finally, she was a commissioner on the Howard County Commission for Women. And what was really fascinating with this accomplishment is that she was the youngest and longest serving youth member in the commission's history. So very phenomenal accomplishment, and really just an amazing student. So let's look at her trajectory. So in the 9th grade, she's noticing that there's, an uptick in childhood obesity in her area. There's a lot of there are a lot of kids who are eating junk food, and so she founds Choice basically to start tackling this problem. And then that same year is when she joins the Howard County Commission for Women, and she starts advocating for a lot of women from underprivileged backgrounds and ensuring that women and children in local communities have access to different resources from physical health, mental health, as well as food, healthy foods. And so she becomes an active advocate and an activist in her local community. In the 10th grade, she joins the Howard County Department of Education student board and actually successfully pushes for a ban on vending machines and junk food in local schools in Howard County, Maryland. The summer after 10th grade, she gets her feet wet doing some research in plant biology. So it wasn't exactly what she wanted to do, but she spent some time in California and was able to find a research internship over a summer and do some pretty amazing work at UC Davis. And then in the 11th and 12th grade, she, is advocating for a lot of different communities in her area. And what she starts to see in her work is, a lot of disparities in health outcomes among different racial groups in the Howard County, Baltimore area. And she actually goes ahead and does research at NIH, the National Institutes of Health, with a professor at Hopkins, and basically writes a paper talking about, or exploring kind of the differences in health outcomes for various groups, specifically from the perspective of cardiovascular disease. So she does a phenomenal job, and this really set her up for success in the college admissions process. So here are some key takeaways. Particularly now that we're, during this time of COVID, you got to go virtual for a lot of things. And so here are some organizations that you can look at that are offering virtual opportunities. But beyond just simply being virtual, being a problem solver that wants to make a difference in your local community, that is going to help you a great deal. And so your ability to have a diverse set of interests and be creative will certainly add to your application. And it's also important to focus on the impact you're going to make, not on the hours you will earn. And the reason I bring this up is so many students come to me, particularly when we're getting started, they'll tell me, hey, John, like if I do this activity, this community service volunteering activity specifically, I will get X number of hours. Is this going to be to my benefit? And I challenge that thinking and say, focus not on hours, focus on impact. So it's that quality versus quantity sort of discussion. Focus on those high quality experiences where you can make a difference and help people in your community. Now, I want to talk a bit about, what we do at Advanced Learning and how Advanced Learning can help. So there are 3 areas that we can help students. So first off, there's academic tutoring for, any of the tests, standardized tests that you may have. But I think the 2 key things that we do that are really different from other providers is our college planning program. So rising 8th to 11th graders, focusing on one-on-one coaching from the perspective of academics, activities, standardized test planning, as well as college and major selection. So really helping you plan out what you should be doing over the course of your high school career and also the tail end of middle school. And if you're listening right now, you may be thinking about what you want to do this summer. And I have students coming in right now and I'm working with them to help them think strategically about their summer plans. And then finally, the college application program. That this is for our rising 12th graders. So this is individualized support with all aspects of the college application process, including school selection, application logistics, forms, essays, and interviews. So we walk you through the whole college application process end to end. And this is one great way that we can be a resource for you. Okay, so that was our presentation for today. Any questions, Jesse, that came through or that maybe came to your mind as you were, looking at what we were talking about today? Got it. Yeah, that's a great question. So I don't think that Kevin intentionally reached out to or thought of that MIT professor and tried to solution his application process, being like, okay, I can apply to MIT and maybe get in if I follow this person's research. I think you should look for inspiration wherever you find it. The other two applicants, um, yes, they did some work that was kind of tangentially related to the universities they went to, but fundamentally it's about doing original work. And so whether it's research from an MIT professor or research at a local university or something you read in a book, it doesn't matter where you get the ideas from. What matters is the impact and the quality of your work. And that's high quality, right? So that's what really matters. Yeah, great question. So there are specific resources and programs. I actually have students right now who are applying to different programs this summer. And if you are interested, please feel free to reach out. Go to our website, advancedlearning.com. Happy to do a consultation and give you the resources you need to start thinking about how you can do high quality work. Because sometimes students are intimidated when they see college professors and they see these top-notch programs and they're wondering, oh my gosh, how can I get in? And I think you can. There is definitely a path forward. It's about being strategic and having a coach. And so that's where here at Advanced Learning Academy, we're committed to helping you find the resources you need and helping you not only find them, but then access them. Yeah, great questions, Jesse. And I'm so glad we have a couple people who joined us live. That is phenomenal. Definitely looking forward to having more folks join us in the future. So I want to say thank you all for your time. I hope everyone is having a wonderful start to their summer. And I look forward to seeing everyone again in our session next week, same day and time. Thank you.